Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So in this video we're going to do the GCSE English Language Paper 1 walkthrough. So if we look at this schedule, we're on this date right now where we're doing the full Paper 1 walkthrough revision, and we're going to have a look at a Paper 2 overview later on. So let's first look at some exam strategies and tips. These are the best tips I would give you for English Language Paper 1. So the first tip is to read the whole extract at least once before answering any questions. Make sure you highlight key language and structural techniques as you're reading. Manage your time carefully, so don't spend too long on the earlier questions. If you don't know how to manage your time, I've made other videos explaining how long to spend on each question. Always back up your points with short, focused quotes. Use clear paragraphing and link your ideas together logically, and make sure you check your spelling, punctuation and grammar before the end of the paper. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 1. This is Paper 1, Question 1 from this exam paper. It gives you a little extract and it says, read again the first part of the source from lines 1 to 5. List 4 things about Zoe's surroundings from this part of the source. Pause the video now and have a go at answering it. When you're ready to check your answers, press play so we can go through it together. Right, let's have a look at this together. So the first part of this answer I've put is the fact it was snowing again in Zoe's surroundings, and you can see I've highlighted that in the extract. Next, I said snowflakes were settling on her jacket sleeve, and you can see that in the orange quotes highlighted. Then I've highlighted the pink quote here, and I've written down the air smelt of pine resin. And lastly, I've highlighted the green quote here, and I've written down across to the west were the irregular peaks of the mountain range. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 2. Paper 1, Question 2 is language analysis question. So it gives us another extract of another part of the extract, and it says, how does the writer use language here to describe Zoe's feelings? This question's 8 marks here, so you have to make sure you're doing PEEL, point, evidence, explain, link. So pause the video now, have a go at planning and writing your answer, and when you're ready to check my answer, press play. Right, let's have a look at my answer. The first thing I've highlighted is Zoe's feelings in orange because this is the topic and it's the focus of the question. Then I've highlighted the quote, few moments in life that come as clear and as pure as ice. I've said that this is a simile and an example of imagery, and it shows how she feels peace and clarity in her surroundings. This shows that her experience is rare and pure, and it suggests calmness and simplicity, linking to her feeling spiritual and one with nature. If we write in a paragraph, it looks a bit like this. So I've said, the writer uses imagery and contrast to show how Zoe experiences a moment of perfect clarity and peace. The phrase, few moments in life that come as clear and as pure as ice, compares her feeling to ice, something flawless and transparent. The simile suggests that Zoe's experience is rare and intensely pure, as if her emotions and surroundings have become one. The words clear and pure reflect calmness and simplicity, showing she feels completely connected to the mountain. This language highlights that Zoe's feelings are spiritual and transcendent, and she feels at one with nature. If we have a go at analysing this paragraph, we can see in pink here I've highlighted the point that the writer uses imagery, contrast, and how Zoe experiences a moment of perfect clarity and peace. In yellow, I've highlighted the evidence, so this is a quote from the text. In green, I've highlighted all the explanation, which is my analysis of these quotes. And in brown, I've highlighted the link back to the focus of the question. The next quote I highlighted was, everywhere was snow and silence. Snow and silence, the complete arrest of life, a rehearsal and a pre-echo of death. Here's an example of repetition and metaphor, and it expresses both her calmness and her fear in the situation. This shows Zoe's stillness of her surroundings, and it shows that the scene appears both haunting and powerful. If we write this as a paragraph, it says, the writer contrasts beauty with danger through repetition and a metaphor to express both calm and fear. The line, everywhere was snow and silence, the complete arrest of life, a rehearsal and a pre-echo of death, uses repetition and metaphor. Repeating snow and silence emphasizes the total stillness of her surroundings, almost unnerving in its quiet. The description of it as a rehearsal of death gives the scene a haunting tone, showing Zoe's awareness of how close life and death can feel in such extreme conditions. The writer therefore captures the powerful, almost dangerous calm of the mountain and Zoe's awe at its lifeless perfection. If we analyse this paragraph here, in pink I've highlighted the points again, about it contrasting beauty with danger and the repetition and metaphor to express both calm and fear. In orange I've highlighted the evidence, which are the quotes from the text. In yellow I've highlighted the explanation, so it's the analysis of the quotes. And lastly, in green, I've highlighted the link, which is a link back to the question. In purple here, I've highlighted another quote. So it says, "They looked like weird talons of brilliant red and gold in the powder snow as she waited, ready to swoop. I am alive. I am an eagle." Here is an example of imagery in first person, and it shows Zoe's sense of freedom and excitement. It also shows the fact she's feeling energy, adrenaline, and she's feeling truly alive in the situation she's in. If we write this as a paragraph, it says, "The writer uses vivid imagery and first-person thoughts to reveal Zoe's exhilaration and sense of freedom. The simile, they look like weird talons of brilliant red and gold, and her thoughts, I am alive, I am an eagle, show this. Comparing her skis to talons makes her seem predatory and powerful, while the bright colours red and gold suggest energy and vitality. The short, simple sentences, I am alive, I am an eagle, capture her rush of adrenaline and complete freedom, as if she is transformed into something wild. The language shows that Zoe feels liberated and strong, as the mountain makes her feel truly alive." Have I got pause in this video now and analyse this paragraph for point, evidence, explain, link, and when you've done it, press play so we can go through it together. Right, let's go through it together. So in pink here, I've highlighted the point. So it's vivid imagery and first-person thoughts, and it shows that it's revealing Zoe's exhilaration and her sense of freedom. In orange, I've highlighted the evidence, so it's the quotes from the text. In yellow is my explanation of the quotes, and purple is the link back to the focus, which is Zoe's surroundings. Let's have a look at paper 1, question 3 for English language. And this is a structure question. So it tells us to think about the whole of the source and asks us how has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader. This question's 8 marks. So here I've posted the whole source for this question. I want you to pause the video now, have a go at breaking down this extract into beginning, middle and end, and writing down what the focus is on in each section. And when you're ready, press play so we can have a go at this together. Right, let's have a look at where I separated this text then. So I put this pink part as the beginning of the text, and I said the focus was on Zoe's surroundings and her sense of peace. If I wrote this as a paragraph, it says, at the start of the extract, the focus is on Zoe's surroundings and the tranquility of the mountain setting. This is shown through the quote, "It was snowing again. Gentle six-pointed flakes from a picture book were settling on her jacket sleeve. The mountain air prickled with ice and the smell of pine resin." The writer uses detailed imagery and sensory description, snow, cold, and pine resin, to slow the pace and immerse the reader in the calm, magical environment. The long flowing sentences reflect the stillness and beauty of the scene, and the line, "She almost thought she could die in that place," and "happily," hints at later danger, keeping the reader subtly alert. This careful focus on setting at the start draws the reader in and establishes the serene yet slightly foreboding atmosphere. Let's have a go at analysing this paragraph. So in pink, I've highlighted the point that the focus is on Zoe's surroundings and the tranquility of the mountain setting. In orange, I've put the evidence, so the quotes from the text. In yellow, I've put the explanations. And then here in blue, I've put the link back to the focus, which is the structure. In purple here, I've said that the middle has the focus on Zoe's feelings of exhilaration and empowerment. Let's write a paragraph on it. So I've said the focus then shifts to Zoe's feelings of exhilaration and freedom as she prepares to ski. This is shown through the quote, "I am alive, I am an eagle." Here, the writer uses short, emphatic sentences and first-person thoughts to convey her adrenaline, power, and sense of liberation. The simile, "They look like weird talons of brilliant red and gold in the powder snow," emphasizes her energy and transformation, making her feel predatory and in control. Repetition of snow and silence contrasts the earlier calm with her anticipation, heightening the reader's engagement. This shift from peaceful observation to personal exhilaration introduces action and builds excitement. So here, in pink, I've put the point, which is the feelings of exhilaration and freedom as she prepares to ski. In yellow, I've put the evidence, which are the quotes from the text. In orange is the explanation, and in blue is the link. Lastly, this blue section here is the end of the extract, and I've said the focus is on the danger, fear, and the chaos of the avalanche. And here I've written a paragraph to explain it. So I've said, finally the focus shifts to danger and suspense with the avalanche. This is shown through the quote, "Then her smile iced over. Jake was speeding straight towards her. Her face was rubberized and he mouthed something as he flew at her." The writer increases pace using rapid, fragmented sentences, conveying chaos and urgency, and vivid sensory language like being agitated inside a washing machine and chattering noise like the amplified jaws of a million termites chewing on wood, to immerse the reader in Zoe's experience. The contrast with the earlier calm and the middle section's exhilaration highlights tension. Shift in perspective between Zoe's thoughts and the physical avalanche make the danger immediate and personal, sustaining the reader's interest. Here, in blue, I've put the point of the paragraph. In yellow, I've put the evidence. In orange, I've put the explanation. And in pink, I've put the link. Lastly, I've put a little conclusion. So I've said, overall, the structure moves the reader from tranquil observation to exhilaration to sudden danger, with deliberate changes in sentence length, pace, imagery, and perspective to reflect Zoe's experience and guide the reader's emotions. The contrast between calm and chaos and the careful sequencing of events keeps the reader engaged throughout the extract. Let's have a look at Paper 1, Question 4 together. So, Paper 1 Question 4 is an evaluation question, and it gives you a specific part of the extract to focus on, and then it gives you a little statement. So here the statement is, a student said, in this part of the story where Zoe and Jake are caught in the avalanche, I can't believe Zoe is so slow to react to the warning signs, because, in the end, the situation sounds really dangerous. To what extent do you agree? So for this text, I would recommend you having to break the statement down into two parts. So the first part here would be that Zoe is so slow to react to the warning signs, and the second part is the situation sounds really dangerous. Then you have to look at line 28 to the end and pick out quotes for each part of the statement, and then you can either agree or disagree. So here I've put lines 28 to the end, and I've put the first part of the statement where Zoe is slow to react to the warning signs. I want you to pause the video now and have a go at seeing where we can see this in the extract and what quotes either support or argue against the statement. So pick out 3 or 4 quotes and try to analyse them relating to this statement here. And when you're ready, press play so we can do it together. Right, let's have a look together. The first quote I've highlighted is the fact that she felt a small slab of snow slip from underneath her. I've said this is foreshadowing, as the slipping snow hints at danger ahead, but Zoe doesn't recognise it as a warning, and the use of sensory detail shows how close she is to danger without realising it. The next quote highlighted is irritated by the false start date made, and this shows tone and characterization, because instead of being alarmed, she feels frustrated, and it shows that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation, revealing her slow awareness of the danger. I've then highlighted the quote, she pushed herself down the fall line, scrambling for traction, trying to accelerate away. And I've said this is an example of action verbs and dynamic imagery, as the verbs show that Zoe's quick instinctive reaction once she knows what's happening, contrasting with her earlier slowness. So this quote and this quote agree with the fact that she's slow to react to the warning signs, and this quote disagrees as it says that she knew all along. Here I've written a first paragraph. So I've said, at first, Zoe failed to recognise the early signs of danger on the mountain when she felt a small slab of snow slip from underneath her. It is a clear warning that the ground is unstable, but she doesn't realise this. The writer uses foreshadowing as sensory imagery to hint at the danger ahead, showing how close she is to disaster without understanding it. This makes Zoe seem unprepared and slow to react, as she overlooks a crucial sign that something is about to go wrong. Here in blue, I've highlighted the point of this paragraph. I've then highlighted the evidence in yellow. Green is the explanation of the quote, and pink is the link back to the focus of the question. This is the second paragraph, and it says, Zoe's emotions also show that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation. When she is described as being irritated by the false start they'd made, her reaction shows annoyance rather than fear. The adjective irritated suggests that she views the moment as a minor inconvenience instead of recognising it as a sign of danger. Through this tone and characterisation, the writer shows Zoe's lack of awareness, which makes her seem slow to interpret the warning signs around her. This builds tension as the reader begins to sense the danger that Zoe herself has not yet been realised. In pink here, I've put the point, and it shows that she misjudges the seriousness of the situation. In green, I've put the evidence, which is the quotes. In yellow, I've put the explanation, and then in blue, I've put the link back to the question. Next paragraph here, I've said, however, once Zoe understands the danger, her reaction becomes quick and desperate. When she pushed herself down the fall line, scrambling for traction, trying to accelerate away, the use of action verbs such as pushed, scrambling, and accelerate emphasizes her instinctive and urgent attempt to escape. The dynamic imagery contrasts sharply with her earlier calmness, showing a sudden shift from ignorance to panic. Although Zoe was slow to recognize the warning signs at first, She acts with speed and determination once the danger becomes clear, highlighting the change from calm control to frantic survival. If we analyse this paragraph, you can see in blue I've highlighted the point of this paragraph, in yellow is the evidence, in orange is my explanation, and lastly in pink is the link. For the second part of the statement, which is the situation sounds really dangerous, I've put the extract here again, and again I want you to pause the video and have a go at looking where we can see this statement in the extract and what quotes can support or argue against this statement. So pause the video now and have a go at answering this part yourself. Right, let's have a look at doing this together. So first I've highlighted this quote which says, "The rumbling had become a roaring in her ears, drowning Jake's words." This is an example of sound imagery or personification, and the shift shows the danger intensifying. The avalanche is personified as a living, overpowering force which drowns out human control, suggesting complete chaos and threat. I've then heard to the quote, "roaring cloud breaking behind her like a tsunami at sea." This is an example of simile and natural imagery, and comparing the avalanche to a tsunami shows its uncontrollable and destructive power. This highlights how deadly the situation is and how small and powerless Zoe is against nature. I've written a paragraph here and it says, "The writer makes the situation sound increasingly dangerous through the use of powerful sound imagery. The description, 'the rumbling had become a roaring in her ears, drowning Jake's words,' show how the noise of the avalanche grows until it completely overpowers everything else. The shift from rumbling to roaring suggests the danger is escalating, while the idea that the sound drowns Jake's words personifies the avalanche as a living, unstoppable force. This creates a sense of chaos and panic, emphasizing how the characters are losing control as the threat closes in around them." If we analyse this paragraph, here in orange I've put the point, in yellow is my evidence, in blue is my explanation, and in pink is the link back to the focus. Next paragraph here, I've put the danger is further highlighted through the comparison of the avalanche to a natural disaster. The simile, "the roaring cloud breaking behind her like a tsunami at sea," shows the avalanche's enormous power and destructive energy. By likening it to a tsunami, the writer conveys its unstoppable force and the sense that Zoe is completely powerless against it. This vivid natural imagery helps the reader visualize the scale of the danger and understand how overwhelming and life-threatening the situation has become. Here in pink, I've put my points. In yellow is my evidence and my quotes. In green is my explanation and analysis. And lastly, in orange is the link. Right, let's have a go at paper 1, question 5. So paper 1, question 5, paper 1, you have an option of 2 questions. So you can either write a story about a magical world as suggested by this picture, or you can describe a place you think is beautiful. So you can choose one. So pause the video now and have a think about which one you're going to do. We're going to start by looking at the picture one here. So if you want to do the picture one, start with this video. Otherwise, you can forward the video a little bit until we look at the description. If you're doing the picture one, pause the video now, have a go at annotating the picture and writing a little story, and press play once you want to have a look at my example. Okay, let's have a look at my example. So here I've said first, the writer shows a young child holding a glowing snow globe and staring at it with wonder. I've then said you should use the image as a springboard for imagination, and you shouldn't describe it literally the whole time you're writing this answer. Here I've focused in on the child's expression. So she's showing wonder, curiosity and innocence. She's holding a glowing snow globe, so this shows mysteriousness. She's showing magical and maybe it holds a secret world. And then I focused on the light. So this is soft, warm, natural light through the window which contrasts with the globe's natural glow. I've then looked at the setting, which is a quiet room, and it shows a peaceful atmosphere, showing a sense of isolation or discovery perhaps. Here I've shown potential avenues for this question, so we could look at it in terms of a portal world, where the snow globe is a gateway and the child is pulled inside into a frozen or enchanted land. We could look at it in terms of the creator of worlds, so whatever the child imagines appears inside the globe and the whole world is shaped by thought. We could look at it as the memory keeper, where the globe reveals memories, showing moments from the past or glimpses of the future. We could look at it in terms of the guardian's test, where the globe chooses a child to restore balance to a long-lost magical world. And lastly, we could look at it in terms of reality blending, where the magic from the globe leaks into reality, snow falls indoors, and a fantasy becomes real. For the sake of this video, we're going to have a look at the Memory Keeper, where the globe reveals memories showing moments from the past or glimpses of the future. Right, so here I've put a little plan for the story. So I've provided a part for the opening where we set the scene, the middle for the discovery, and the ending for the resolution. Let's have a look at the opening here. So I've said the room was silent except for the ticking of the old clock. Light slanted through the curtains, catching the dust that hung in the air like tiny ghosts. On the shelf sat a snow globe, its glass clouded with age. Amelia lifted it carefully, brushing away the dust. The cold glass pressed against her palms as she gave it a gentle shake. For a moment she expected snow, but instead the mist inside began to swirl, forming colours, shapes, people. She gasped. Inside, a tiny scene flickered to life, herself at 5 years old, laughing as her grandfather lifted her high into the air. She could almost hear his voice, soft and warm, saying, "Hiya, Millie, you can touch the stars." The image shimmered, then faded into silver again. Amelia's heart twisted. She shook the globe once more. This time she saw herself by a hospital bed, holding his hand, whispering goodbye. The light dimmed. Even the air felt colder. A tear rolled down her cheek. She clutched the globe, afraid to shake it again, afraid of what might appear. But something inside her urged her to try one more time. The mist parted slowly, and there he was again, smiling, waving from within the glass. The light around him glowed brighter than before, filling the room with warmth. It was as if the memory itself reached out to hold her. When the glow faded, the globe was still, but the room didn't feel empty anymore. Amelia placed it back on the shelf, and as she turned to leave, a faint light shimmered through the glass. Quiet, gentle, eternal. Right, let's have a go at analysing this answer that I've written for you guys. So here, where I've written catching the dust that hung in the air like tiny ghosts is an example of a simile. Here, clouded with age is an example of a metaphor. The quote, colours, shapes, people is an example of a list, also known as a triple. The part where it says she gasped is an example of a short sentence, and at 5 years old is an example of a flashback. The part where it says, "Hiya, Millie, you can touch the stars," is an example of speech. And the sentence, "Amelia's heart twisted," is an example of a short sentence. And this quote, "This time she saw herself by a hospital bed," is another shift in time, and it keeps the reader engaged. If we have a look at this paragraph together, where it says a tear rolled down her cheek is an example of emotive language. Where it says afraid and afraid is an example of repetition. Where it says filling the room with warmth is an example of a metaphor. The memory itself reached out to hold her is an example of personification. And quiet, gentle, and eternal is an example of a triple, also known as a list of 3. Here, let's have a go at the story. So we have to describe a place you think is beautiful. Have a go at planning this answer together and press play once you have to have a look at my examples. Right, let's have a go at analysing this together. So I've put some possible avenues for this story, and I've said we can do this as a seaside or a beach where we look at waves, sand, sun and the horizon. We can do it as a forest and a woodland where we look at trees, sunlight, wildlife and calm. We can do it as mountains and hills where we look at the peaks, mist, panoramic views and awe. We can do it as a city where there's urban beauty and the skyline, lights, architecture, atmosphere. We can also do it as a personal and meaningful place, as a bedroom, garden, childhood spot and nostalgia. For this video, we're going to have a look at a forest/woodland where we have trees, sunlight, wildlife and calm. This is the plan for the story. So we have an opening where the scene is set, senses, which is the main description, and personal feelings as the ending. Let's have a go at reading my paper then. So I've said, the forest stretched before me, bathed in the soft gold of early morning. Sunlight filtered through the tall, whispering trees, casting dancing shadows across the moss-covered ground. A gentle mist clung to the undergrowth, giving the world a dreamlike, almost magical quality. Tiny droplets hung on spiderwebs like delicate jewels, glinting as the light touched them. Birdsong filled the air, a cheerful chorus bouncing between the trucks, while the subtle rustle of leaves whispered secrets as the wind meandered through the branches. Somewhere in the distance, the steady drip of melting dew echoed softly. The earthy scent of damp soil and pine needles mingled, grounding me in the quiet beauty of the woodland. I ran my fingers over the rough bark of an ancient oak, feeling the history etched into its surface, and pressed my palm against soft, springy moss, marvelling at its coolness. A shaft of sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a cluster of wildflowers, their colours vivid against the green. As I walked along the winding path, a profound calm settled over me, as if the forest had absorbed all my worries. Light flickered on the leaves like tiny golden flames, and I felt a quiet awe at the delicate balance of life surrounding me. In that moment, I was part of the forest, yet entirely free from the world beyond its edge, carrying me with a sense of wonder I knew I would never forget. Here, let's have a go at analysing the answer. So in pink, I've put personification, where it says whispering trees, casting dancing shadows, clung and hung. In blue, I've put some sensory detail to create magical environment. This can be shown through the words forest, sunlight, moss-covered ground, magical, delicate jewels and glinting. In orange, I've put some metaphors and the connection to the place, showing emotional engagement. This can be shown through the quotes, whispered secrets and grounding me in the quiet beauty of the woodland. In green, I've put that this whole paragraph has a varied sentence structure, so it's a mix of long descriptive sentences and shorter phrases for rhythm. And lastly, in the bottom orange part, I've put some examples of visual imagery and symbolism, adding brightness and focus to the scene. In purple here, I've put I was part of the forest yet entirely free as an example of a strong closing, leaving the reader with a lasting image. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to do GCSE English Language Paper 2 Overview. So if we have a quick look at the schedule, we're on this date today where we've done the Paper 1 revision walkthrough video in the playlist, and now we're doing the English Language Paper 2 Overview. So let's have a look at what's in Paper 2. Paper 2 is 1 hour 45 minutes in total. It's 5 questions and it's worth 80 marks. Question 1 to question 4 are worth 40 marks, and this is the reading section, where the main skills we focus on are retrieval, summary, language and comparison. Question 5 is 40 marks, and this is your writing section, where we look at the viewpoint. So we have to write something like an article, letter or speech. Time split I'd recommend is question 1 to question 4 is for 1 hour spent in time, and question 5 is 45 minutes. The best tip is that question 5 alone is worth 25% of the paper, so you have to plan, write and proofread your answer for this question. Let's have a look at paper 2 question 1 then. Question 1 is worth 4 marks, so I'd recommend spending about 5 minutes. The main skill for this question is retrieval, so you have to identify true statements or key details for this question from source A only. You have to focus on facts, not opinions, and you don't have to put any quotes or analysis for this question. The best tip is to read your answer carefully, as the answers are directly in the text for this question. Paper 2 question 2 is worth 8 marks, and you have to spend about 10 to 12 minutes on this question. You have to look at similarities or differences between the two texts and use your own words and focus on key points only. So you are directly picking out the key concepts from each source and comparing or contrasting them using the quotes. You don't include unnecessary detail, and again you compare the content, ideas or information in both texts. Paper 2 question 3 is 12 marks, and I'd recommend spending about 15 minutes on this question. You have to look at language in this question, so you have to analyse the writer's language choices in one source. You have to identify language techniques such as similes, metaphors and emotive language, and explain the effect on the reader. You have to use short quotations as evidence and look at the effect, and you have to focus on key words, phrases and sentences. This question is the same as paper 1 question 2 language analysis question. Right, paper 2 question 4 is worth 16 marks, and you have to spend about 20 minutes here. This is a comparison question where you compare the writer's viewpoints and methods across both texts. You have to focus on key ideas, tones and methods and use evidence from both texts. For this question, you have to analyse how and why writers present their views, and you have to write in your own words and include brief quotes for support in your answer. Paper 2 question 5 is worth 40 marks, and you have to spend about 45 minutes on this question. This is the writing section where you have to look at a viewpoint, for example in an article, letter or speech. You have to plan this answer for about 5 or 10 minutes and look at the audience, purpose, structure and tone. You have to write for about 30 minutes where you develop a clear argument, developed points, engaging opening and conclusions, and then you proofread your answer where you spend 5 or 10 minutes to check your spelling, punctuation and grammar. You have to also use persuasive techniques in this answer, so you can use stuff like rhetorical questions, repetition, and emotive language to ensure you're getting the top marks for this answer. If you have any questions before we start practicing, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll answer them for you guys. Let's have a go at practicing question 1 then. So here I've provided an extract and question 1 for one of the papers. I want you to pause the video and have a go at answering it yourself. When you're ready to check your answers, press play so we can go through it together. Right, let's go through it together. So the first part that was correct is that lots of people tried to get into medical school. That can be shown through the pink quote here, where it says medical schools are oversubscribed tenfold. The next one that's correct is that Adam Kay's musical qualifications helped to get him a place at medical school. This can be shown where it says my distinctions in grade 8 piano and saxophone alongside some half-hearted theatre reviews for the school magazine qualified me perfectly for life on the hospital wards. Next one is that Adam Kay was excited by the thought of becoming a doctor, which can be shown through the quote, the buzz of knowing I was going to become a doctor one day. And last one is the time that it took for Adam Kay to become a doctor went slowly, which can be shown through the quote, those 6 long years. Make sure if you have any questions to put them down in the comments so I can answer them, and make sure you check the other videos in the playlist for your revision. And welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to do some GCSE English language work and we're going to look at paper 2 question 2. So if we look at the schedule, you can see we're on this day over here, and paper 2 question 2 is a similarities or difference question between 2 texts. So this question is worth 8 marks and I would recommend spending about 10 to 12 minutes on this question. Like I said, it's a similarities or differences question between 2 texts. The best tips I can give you are to use your own words, focus on key points only, and do not include unnecessary detail. This question tests your ability to compare content, ideas, and information. Let's have a look at practicing question 2 then. Question 2 will look something like this. So it says, you need to refer to source A and source B for this question. The doctor in source A and the nurse in source B are working in different places. Use details from both sources to write a summary of what you understand about the different places in which the doctor and nurse are working for 8 marks. So I'd recommend pausing the video now and having a go at annotating and analysing this question, and when you're ready, press play so we can do it together. Right, let's have a look together. The first part I highlighted was source A and source B, and this tells us that for this question we need to look at both extracts together. The next part was the focus of the question, which says working in different places, and this shows us we need to focus on differences in this question, not similarities. Here I've pasted source A, so you can pause the video and have a little read of it if you like. And here I've posted source B, so you can have a little pause and read of it if you like. This is the way we're going to plan our answer for this question. So this is the part where you put the section, for example, intro, middle, end. This is where you're going to put what the focus is on. Here you're going to put parts of source A and parts of source B, and then we're going to look at comparing and what inferences we can make from the sources. So pause the video now and have a go at making your plan based on source A and source B, and when you're ready to look at mine, press play. Right, for mine, I've put in the intro section, the focus is on the overview of both writers. In source A, this is based in a modern hospital where it is structured, clinical and overwhelming, whereas in source B, it is located in a war wharf, where it is open, chaotic and emotional. And the inference that I've made is that both individuals care for others under pressure, but their environments are very different. For the next section, I've looked at paragraph 1, and I've said the focus is on the physical environment or setting. This can be seen in source A's quote, ward after ward, where there's enclosed areas, it is repetitive and it's impersonal. The quote, endless stream of patients suggests the environment is very busy and stressful. In source B, the quotes, busy scene, crowded with shipping, and sick and wounded soldiers shows that the setting is outdoor, noisy, and full of life. The inference shows that the environments are both demanding and crowded, but the hospital is controlled and procedural, whereas the wharf is raw and human. In the next section of paragraph 2, I've said the focus is on the atmosphere and the emotional experience. This can be shown in the quotes in source A, one man, mobile, untrained A&E department, which shows the environment is lonely, pressured and mechanical job for the doctor in source A, whereas in source B, the quotes touch my hand, God bless you, show it's a warm, compassionate, emotional job. The inference from here is that K feels isolated in a modern system in source A, whereas C. Cole feels connected through kindness and empathy in source B. Here I've written a paragraph based on my first section of the intro, so let's have a read. So I've said, both the doctor in source A and the nurse in source B work in medical settings where they care for people in difficult situations. However, the places they work in are very different in atmosphere and experience. Whereas Adam K's modern hospital is controlled, structured and overwhelming, Mary C. Cole Wharf is chaotic, emotional and full of human compassion. Let's have a go at analysing this paragraph. So in pink here, I've put the point, which is the overview of the paragraph. In orange, I've put the explanation of how the places are different. And in yellow, I've put a comparison between both places. The next paragraph is paragraph 1, where I've described the physical environment and setting of the places. So I've said, in source A, Adam K's hospital is presented as an organised yet exhausting place, whereas in source B, Mary C. Cole's wharf is busy and full of life. K describes ward after ward and constant emergencies, which shows that his environment is enclosed, pressurised and dominated by systems and procedures. This makes his workplace feel clinical and impersonal, focused on efficiency rather than emotion. In contrast, Seacole describes the busy scene of the harbour, crowded with shipping and sick and wounded soldiers, creating a vivid image of a loud outdoor environment shaped by chaos and suffering. Both are intense, but the hospital is confined and professional, whereas the wharf is open, human and predictable. Have a go at pausing the video now and analysing this paragraph for points, explanation and evidence. So, in purple here, I've put the point of this paragraph. In yellow, I've put the evidence, which are the quotes from source A. And in yellow, I put my explanation of source A and the physical environment. In blue, I've put the evidence from source B. In orange, I've put the explanation of source B and how that is crowded and noisy. And in green, I've put the link back to the focus of the question. For the next paragraph, I've focused on the atmosphere and the emotional experience between the sources. So I've said, in source A, the hospital feels isolating and draining, whereas in source B, the wharf feels compassionate and emotional. K calls himself a one-man, mobile, essentially untrained A&E department, showing how he feels alone and overburdened in a system that leaves little space for personal connection. However, Seacole's experience is more personal and tender. When the soldier touched her hand and said, God bless you, she finds meaning in kindness and empathy. Therefore, while both writers describe demanding places of care, Kay's world is dominated by pressure and procedure, whereas Seacole's is filled with humanity and warmth. Again, have a go at pausing this video and annotating it for the key parts of the paragraph, and when you're ready, press play so we can have a look together. So here, in green, I've put the points of the paragraphs. In blue, I've put the evidence from source A, and in yellow, I've explained what these quotes mean. In pink, I've put the point of source B. In red, I've put the evidence from source B, and in this peach colour, I've put the explanation. Lastly, in brown, I've put the link, so it links back to the focus of the question. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to look at GCSE English Language, and we're going to focus on Paper 2, Question 3. So, Paper 2, Question 3 is worth 12 marks, and I would recommend spending about 15 minutes on this question. The main task is to analyse how language is used to create effects. So it's the same as Paper 1, Question 2, but it's just worth a few more marks. The skill you have to demonstrate for this question is zooming in on key words, phrases and language techniques, and you have to use short quotes and explain the impact on the reader. My main tip for this question is that if you're doing detailed paragraphs for this question, 3 to 4 is more than enough. Let's have a look at practicing question 3 then. Here is the question. So it says, you now need to refer only to source A from lines 30 to 39. How does the writer use language to describe working night shifts at the hospital? And this is worth 12 marks. I would recommend pausing the video now and having a go at analysing and annotating this question and having a look at what they are asking from us. So pause the video now and have a go. Right, let's have a look together. So, the source A and lines 30 to 39 shows that this question is asking for us to look at a specific part of the source. The part where it says working night shifts at the hospital shows that's our focus of our answer, and we have to make sure all of our points link to this. Language shows us we have to focus on language methods, for example, a list, repetition, and metaphor. Here is the extract we have to focus on for this question. So I want you to pause the video now and have a go at picking out a few quotes that demonstrate what it's like working night shifts at the hospital. Have a go at looking for language methods and analysis, and when you're ready, press play so we can do it together. So the first quote I've picked out is made hell look like Disneyland, and I've said this is an example of hyperbole and contrast because hell is demonstrating pain and suffering, whereas Disneyland represents joy and perfection. And here this is used to humorously emphasize how terrible and chaotic night shifts are. If I write it as a paragraph, this is how it looks. So I've said the writer uses language to describe night shifts as horrific and overwhelming. This is shown through the hyperbole and contrast in the phrase, made hell look like Disneyland. This suggests that the shifts are so awful that even the happiest place imaginable seems pleasant compared to them. The extreme exaggeration highlights the chaos and misery of its experience while maintaining a humorous tone. This makes the reader feel shocked but amused, understanding both the horror and absurdity of his situation. Here, let's have a look at analysing it for point, evidence, explain, link. So in yellow, where it says night shifts are horrific and overwhelming, that's an example of our point in this question. The orange here is the quote, made hell look like Disneyland. Blue is my explanation in this paragraph, and purple is my link back to the focus. The next quote highlighted is sailing the ship alone, a ship that's enormous and on fire, and that no one has really taught you how to sail. This is an example of an extended metaphor. The ship here represents the hospital, which is large, complex, and dangerous, and the image of it being on fire evokes chaos and urgency. The quote, no one has really taught you how to sail, reflects Kay's feelings of being unprepared and supported. Here, this metaphor is vividly used to communicate his fear and responsibility, and it helps readers to imagine the overwhelming situation. If we add as a paragraph, it says, the writer uses language to describe his experience as chaotic and frightening. This is shown through the extended metaphor, sailing the ship alone, a ship that's enormous and on fire, and that no one has really taught you how to sail. This suggests that Kay feels out of control, unprepared, and surrounded by danger. The burning ship represents the hospital, large, unpredictable, and difficult to manage. This makes the reader feel sympathetic and anxious as they picture him struggling alone in a dangerous and stressful environment. Pause the video now and have a go at analysing this paragraph for point, evidence, explain, link. And when you're ready to have a look, press play. Right, so here in purple I've highlighted the point of it being chaotic and frightening. In pink is my extended metaphor evidence quote. In orange is my explanation. And lastly in yellow is my link back to the focus. The next quote I highlighted was one man, mobile, essentially untrained A&E department, which is an example of listing and irony. Here, one man suggests isolation, whereas mobile implies he's constantly moving without rest. The quote untrained is ironic because although he spent years studying, he still feels unprepared in the situation, and here the humour is used to mask the serious criticism of how young doctors in this situation are overworked and undersupported. If we write to the paragraph, it says, the writer uses language to describe himself as isolated and unprepared. This is shown through the irony and listing in the phrase, a one-man, mobile, essentially untrained A&E department. This suggests that Kay is doing the work of many people alone, while the ironic tone shows how ridiculous it is that a junior doctor has so much responsibility. The list of adjectives exaggerates the scale of his workload, and this makes the reader feel sympathetic and concerned, recognising how unfair and demanding the job is. Pause the video now and have a go at looking for point, evidence, explain, link, please. Right, here in orange is the point of this paragraph. In yellow is my evidence and my quoting. In purple is my explanation, and in pink is the link back to the question. This purple quote here says, getting drenched in bodily fluids, reviewing an endless stream of worryingly sick patients. This is an example of vivid imagery and exaggeration. Here, the grotesque image of being drenched in bodily fluids shocks the reader and highlights the unpleasant realities of the hospital work. The phrase endless stream suggests constant activity and no break in the chaos, and the word worryingly shows his concern and responsibility despite the grim humour used. Here, the mix of dark comedy and realism makes the scene both revolting and sympathetic, and it helps the reader to appreciate his dedication. Let's have a look at this in a paragraph. So, as said, the writer uses language to describe the reality of his job as unpleasant and physically draining. This is shown through the vivid imagery and adjective choices in getting drenched in bodily fluids, reviewing an endless stream of worryingly sick patients. This suggests the grim, messy reality of hospital work, while endless conveys the sense of continuous struggle and fatigue. This makes the reader feel disgusted yet admiring, appreciating the emotional and physical strength needed to keep working in such conditions. Here in pink, I've put the point. In yellow is my evidence. In blue is my explanation. And in green is my link back to the question. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to have a look at GCSE English Language, and we're going to focus on Paper 2, Question 4. So, when we look at Paper 2, Question 4, we have to notice it's asking us about the similarities or differences between two texts. It is worth 16 marks, and I'd recommend spending about 25 to 30 minutes on this question. For this question, you have to use your own words and focus on key points only. You do not have to include any unnecessary detail, and the best tip I can give you for this question is to compare content, ideas, or information. So let's have a look at practicing question 4. So this is an example of what the question will look like. I want you to pause this video and have a look at analysing and highlighting the important parts in this question, and when you're ready to go through it, press play. Right, let's have a look together. So the part where it says whole of source A and whole of source B shows we have to look at all of the source and both of them together. Where it says different feelings and perspectives, this shows us we have to look at the differences only between the texts. And then it says providing medical air. This is the focus of the question, and we have to make sure our points link to this. Let's have a look at planning the question. So here is source A. You can pause the video and have a little read of it now. And here is source B, and again, pause the video and have a little read of it now. So this is the table that we are going to use to plan our answer. So if we first plan the intro, we can see that the intro focuses on what both texts are about. So we can say that both writers describe what it is like to care for others in medicine. Kay, who is the modern doctor in source A, shows stress and frustration throughout her humour, whereas Seacole, in source B, which is a 19th century nurse, shows kindness and pride through emotion. And as a comparative connective, I've said both describe medical care as demanding. However, Kay sounds tired and sarcastic, whereas Seacole sounds caring and proud. If we write this as a paragraph, it sounds like this. So, I've said both Adam Kay and Mary Seacole write about their experiences of providing medical care, showing how demanding yet meaningful the work can be. In source A, Kay uses humour and exaggeration to express the exhaustion of being a junior doctor, describing the night shifts as an unrelenting nightmare that made me regret ever thinking my education was being wasted. In contrast, in source B, Seacole shows compassion and pride in caring for wounded soldiers, recalling how she ran up to him at once and eased his dressings, and was moved when he whispered, "God bless you, woman, whoever you are." Kay's modern perspective focuses on the chaos and pressure of hospital life, using sarcasm and metaphors to show how overwhelming it feels to be sailing the ship alone. His tone is frustrated and self-deprecating, revealing the strain of modern medicine. Seacole's 19th century viewpoint is more emotional and hopeful, emphasizing faith, empathy, and the kindness she witnesses, among others, such as the sympathy and brotherly love shown by the strong to the weak. Both writers admire the importance of caring for others. However, Kay's tone is weary and humorous, reflecting the stress of modern hospitals, whereas Seacole's is warm and compassionate, showing the moral strength and selflessness of nursing during war. Let's have a look at pausing the video now and analysing this paragraph and seeing what key parts we can pick out. And when you're ready, press play. Right, let's have a little look. So in blue here, I've put the points, which is showing how source A is showing that both texts are demanding and meaningful. And then in yellow, I've put the evidence. In orange, I've put the explanation, and in pink is the link back. The next paragraph is going to be paragraph 1, which talks about the feelings and motivation. So we have to focus on how they feel about helping others. So the key points for this are that Kay starts excited, saying the buzz of knowing I was going to become a doctor, but soon feels let down and unprepared. Sequel helps out of natural compassion and says I waited for no permission, and also finds comfort in helping others. So to compare this, we can say both of the nurses wanted to help. However, Kay becomes frustrated by the pressure, whereas Sequel stays calm and devoted. Pause the video now and have a go at writing this as a paragraph for me. Let's have a go at reading my model paragraph for this paragraph. So I've said both writers are motivated by a desire to help others, but their feelings about the work develop in very different ways. In source A, Kay begins his career with excitement and ambition, describing the buzz of knowing I was going to become a doctor one day. However, his enthusiasm quickly fades when he realizes that medical school hadn't remotely prepared him for the unpredictable existence of a house officer. In contrast, in source B, Seacole's motivation comes from instinctive compassion rather than ambition. She says she waited for no permission before helping a wounded soldier and was rewarded when his hand touched mine, and he whispered, "God bless you, woman." Kay's language shows how his early optimism turns into frustration and disillusionment as he experiences the reality of hospital life. His use of humour and exaggeration reflects how he copes with disappointment and stress. Seacole's words, however, reveal genuine emotional warmth and faith. Her actions come from moral duty and kindness rather than obligation. Both writers care deeply about helping others. However, Kay's motivation weakens under the pressures of modern medicine, whereas Seacole's compassion strengthens as she finds her purpose and dignity in caring for the sick and wounded. Let's have a go at analysing this paragraph. So in pink, you can see our point for this paragraph. In yellow are our quotes and evidence to back our point. Explanation is here in blue, and our link back is here in purple. The next paragraph is paragraph 2, where we talk about the experience and tone. So we have to look at what both of their work is like and how they are describing it. So as a little plan, we've said Kay describes chaos and night with humour and exaggeration. This can be seen through the quote, "a ship that's enormous and on fire." However, Sequel describes pain and suffering with gentle care, saying, "I ran up to him at once and eased his dressings." This shows that both face hard situations. However, Kay uses humour to cope, whereas Sequel shows sympathy and comfort. If we say this in a paragraph, it says both writers describe the challenges of providing medical care, but their experiences and reactions are very different. In source A, Kay presents his night shifts as chaotic and overwhelming, saying they made hell look like Disneyland. He uses the vivid metaphor of being on a ship that's enormous and on fire, and that no one has really taught you how to sail, to show how unprepared and isolated he feels. In contrast, in source B, Seacole faces distressing scenes on the wharf but remains calm and determined. She describes how she ran up to a wounded soldier at once and eased his dressings, showing courage and compassion in a situation filled with suffering. Kay's use of humour and exaggeration highlights the intensity and exhaustion of modern hospital work, as well as his sense of being unsupported. His tone is frustrated yet self-aware, using comedy to express the chaos of his environment. Seacole, however, focuses on emotional strength and faith. Her calm, compassionate tone shows her dedication and bravery in the face of pain and death. Both writers face demanding and emotional challenges. However, Kay feels overwhelmed by the pressure and lack of control, whereas Sequel feels purposeful and fulfilled by helping others despite the suffering around her. Pause this video and have a go at analysing this paragraph for the key points, and when you're ready, press play. So here, with purple, we can see the points of our paragraph, showing the challenges of providing medical care. In yellow are our quotes and evidence. In orange is our explanation. Lastly, in pink is our link back to the focus of the question. The last paragraph we're going to do here is the conclusion, where it's our final summary. And we've said that both of the nurses think that caring for others is important. Kay throws the struggles of modern medicine, and Seacole shows the goodness and bravery of nursing. So to compare this, we've said both see care as meaningful, However, K's tone is realistic and drained, whereas Seacole's is warm and inspiring. As a paragraph, I've said both Adam K and Mary Seacole show that providing medical care is emotionally demanding but deeply meaningful. In source A, K reflects that even though the work was hard and the hours bordering on inhumane, he still felt a sense of pride, saying, "I was a doctor now." In contrast, in source B, Seacole finishes by admiring the sympathy and brotherly love shown by the strong to the weak, celebrating the kindness she witnessed among those who cared for the wounded. Hayes' ending suggests that modern medical care brings exhaustion and sacrifice, but also accomplishment and purpose. Seacole's conclusion, however, focuses on the goodness and compassion of humanity, showing that helping others is both morally and spiritually rewarding. Both writers convey deep respect for those who dedicate themselves to caring for others. However, Kay's tone is realistic and wary, reflecting the pressures of modern medicine, whereas Seacole's is uplifting and heartfelt, celebrating the compassion and courage found in nursing during wartime. If we highlight and analyze this paragraph together, we can see in pink we have our point of the paragraph, in orange are our quotes and evidence, in green is our explanation, and lastly in yellow is the link back to the focus of the question. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to have a look at GCSE English Language and we're going to look at Paper 2, Question 5. So, Paper 2, Question 5 is worth 40 marks and I'd recommend spending about 45 minutes on this question. Your goal is to write, to argue, persuade or explain your viewpoint clearly. You have to plan this answer quickly, where you decide your stance and look at 2 to 3 main points you're going to write about. You have to use 4 to 5 paragraphs for your answer here. So this includes an intro, 2 points, a counter-argument and a conclusion. You have to include some persuasive techniques in your answer. Some examples of this are emotive language, rhetorical questions, and the rule of 3. You have to make sure you're keeping a suitable tone and structure for the audience and that your form is correct, whether it's an article, letter, or speech. And you have to make sure your spelling, punctuation, and grammar is perfect for the final 16 marks. Let's have a go at practicing question 5. This is an example of question 5, so pause the video now and have a go at annotating it and picking out what's important about this question. Right, let's have a look together. So the first part is a statement and we need to make sure our answer is focused on this statement completely. The next part is says write an article. This shows that we have to make sure we're using the correct layout in our answer. And where it says you argue your point of view, this shows we can either agree, disagree, or both in our answer. And you have to look at 24 marks for content and organisation, which looks at your writing and structure, and technical accuracy, which focuses on your spag and vocabulary. Let's have a go at planning question 5 then. So for our title for the practice question, we're going to make sure we make it catchy and we clearly frame the debate. An example of this is heart versus head, the true measure of career success. So as we can see, the question asks us to write an article for a school or college magazine in which we argue our point of view on the statement, and the statement says choosing a future career should be based on helping others and making a positive contribution to society, not achieving status or making lots of money. So our title, which says heart versus head, the true measure of career success, works perfectly with this. So I'm just going to put the title at the top of our paragraphs there. Next is our introduction, where we're going to hook the reader and state our balanced thesis. And the key point here is that we're going to acknowledge the pressure of choice and we are going to argue that true success combines meaning, which is contribution, and stability, which refers to money here. This is the introduction I've drafted here then. So it says, choosing a future career can feel like standing at a crossroads with everyone shouting different directions. Some voices insist that the right path is the one lined with high salaries and shiny job titles, while others claim that a career only has value if it serves a greater good. The truth sits somewhere quieter and far more realistic. A fulfilling career balances purpose with practicality. Yes, helping others and contributing to society should guide our choices, but financial stability matters too. Real success grows where meaning and security meet. If we have a go at analysing this paragraph, we can see standing at crossroads is an example of a metaphor. Some voices insist that the right path is the one lined with high salaries and shiny job titles is an example of figurative language. Others claim shows that we're slowly introducing the opposing view. And the next paragraph will look at arguing for the importance of contribution or purpose. So our point in this paragraph is that intrinsic fulfillment is gained from helping others, providing lasting happiness that money and status cannot. So this is the paragraph here, and it says, choosing a career that focuses on helping others offers a kind of fulfillment that no amount of money or status can replace. When people work in roles that genuinely serve their communities, whether that's teaching, healthcare, social work, or environmental protection, they experience a sense of purpose that lasts far beyond the excitement of a high salary. Research consistently shows that carers rooted in compassion and contribution lead to higher long-term well-being because they satisfy deep human needs, connection, usefulness, and meaning. While prestige may fade and material reward can quickly become normal, the satisfaction of making a real difference in someone's life creates a lasting sense of pride. This is why choosing a career based on contribution isn't just admirable, it is often the path to genuine, sustainable happiness. Here you can see no amount of money or status is an example of contrast. The orange quote here are concrete examples of what I'm talking about in the paragraph. And the pink quote here shows we are using research and general evidence to back up our point. The yellow quote shows we are using a concluding line with a strong judgment and we're clearly linking back to the question here. Next paragraph is where we argue for the necessity of money and provision. And the point we're going to make in this paragraph is that financial security is practical and essential, and ignoring money leads to stress, burnout, and it limits your ability to help long term. If we look at this paragraph, it says, while purpose is vital, it would be naive to pretend that money does not matter. Financial security is practical, necessary, and forms a foundation for a stable life. When people choose careers without considering income, they often face stress, long hours, and the constant worry of making ends meet. This pressure can lead to burnout and ironically reduce their ability to help others in the long term. A career should support your well-being, not undermine it. After all, it is difficult to make a positive impact on society if you are struggling to support yourself. Therefore, money may not be the main reason to choose a career, but it is an essential part of any realistic and sustainable decision. Here in the yellow quote, we have a clear, assertive sentence. In the blue, face stress, long hours, and burnout, we have an examples of emotive language, which can trigger emotional responses in the reader. In pink, the ability to help others in the long term is an example of forward-looking reasoning. And the next paragraph is going to be a synthesis where we provide the balanced solution, and it's going to be our best argument here. The point we will make is that the ideal career successfully blends both, so we're going to use money and status as a tool to maximize positive impact. Examples of this are ethical leadership and well-funded research. If we look at our paragraph, it says, finding the right career is not a choice between meaning and money, but a thoughtful blend of both. In reality, financial security gives people the freedom and stability to make a meaningful impact without burning out, while purpose provides motivation that keeps them committed and fulfilled. The most successful careers use money and status, not as the ultimate goals, but as tools. A well-paid doctor can fund community health projects, an influential business leader can push for ethical practices, and a researcher with strong financial backing can help develop life-changing innovations. When ambition and compassion work together, a career becomes both sustainable and socially valuable. Here in the pink quote, we can see a clear topic sentence, and this frames our balanced argument clearly. In yellow, we can see balanced reasoning, which explains logical relationship between both arguments. And in green, we can see strong, concrete examples to back up the point we're making in this paragraph. The conclusion is where we're going to summarize and end with a strong final thought. And we will reiterate that it is not an either or choice here. We're going to urge peers to seek careers of worth and wealth together. So, we have choosing a future career should never be reduced to a simple battle between passion and pay. As students preparing to shape our futures, we must recognise that both purpose and practicality matter. Rather than treating them as opposing forces, we should aim for careers that allow us to make a meaningful contribution while still providing financial security. In the end, the most rewarding path is the one that offers both worth and wealth, a future built not just on what we earn, but on the difference we make. If we analyse this paragraph, we can see in green here we have a strong opening sentence that reframes the entire debate immediately. In orange, the word we is a pronoun with direct address and it builds rapport with the audience, meaning you feel like a community. And then in blue, we can see a balanced reasoning and modal verb example where we use persuasive language without sounding forceful.